In honor of the Big Ten kicking off tomorrow between Northwestern and Nebraska, I thought it'd be a good time to take a look at some of the Big Ten quarterbacks. No, we're not going to rank all the starters or talk about the guys at the top. Instead, we're going to talk about the guys at the bottom. We're going to talk about who the worst starting quarterback in the conference is, go through a couple of guys who are in the running for the award, and talk about why they shouldn't win the award. I think today's video is going to be pretty fun, and be sure to let me know your thoughts down below. Before we get started, be sure to subscribe if you don't want to miss out on any more college football content. Leave a like if you want to support the channel, let me know what topic I can do next, and turn on post notifications so you never miss a video this season. Now, let's get started. Yeah, there were a couple of guys in the running, and one dude who just missed the cut is Petrus. I wanted to include him, but he's been named to many award watch lists, I don't know why, so it's getting really hard to justify naming him the worst quarterback in the conference. Petrus has won a lot of games over the last 2 years for Iowa, but how much of that is the offensive line, great coaching, and the running backs? That I can't really answer, but either way, there's a lot to be desired from his game. Last year, he only threw for 1,880 yards with 10 touchdowns compared to 9 interceptions. Add in the fact that he's not very mobile, he kind of reminds me of a sitting duck behind that offensive line. Now that Tyler Goodson is in the NFL, the Hawkeyes will have to pass the ball a little bit more until they find their next great running back, and I have a feeling that Petrus isn't going to last that long. There are a couple of guys on the bench who might be better passers, and if Iowa isn't winning early, I could see Ferentz benching him, and just personally, I'm not that high on Petrus. He's a great story, great player, nothing against him, I just don't think he's that good. But now we're to get into the 4 guys who I think are in the running and have a legitimate case to being the worst quarterback in the Big Ten. Let's first start with Northwestern. Northwestern football fans have really been let down since Clayton Thorson left campus. He became a NFL quarterback after a great career up in Evanston. Ever since then, it's been a revolving door at the quarterback spot. In 2019, they landed a guy who some thought would be better than Thorson in Hunter Johnson, but the former 5-star became a complete bust and is one of the bigger what-ifs in recent Northwestern football history. After that, they grabbed a transfer from Indiana by the name of Peyton Ramsey, and he was pretty good. He led them to a Big Ten West title, but I don't really think of Ramsey as a superstar quarterback, he just more so knew how to win games. Last year, though, was a complete meltdown. Former blue-chip South Carolina quarterback Ryan Hilinski transferred in, and he was not very good. He started 5 games last year, and neither him, Andrew Marty, Johnson, or Carl Richardson could get the job done. As we look ahead to 2022, the battle's going to come down to Hilinski and Brendan Sullivan. Pat Fitzgerald has had high praise for Sullivan, but I honestly still think it's going to be Hilinski. Last year, Hilinski threw for 978 yards with 3 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. That is a horrific stat line. You can maybe blame it on a lack of talent on offense, maybe the offensive line, or on Hilinski, but his numbers have not been good. I don't have very high expectations for him this year, and you can make the case he is the worst starting quarterback in the Big Ten. On a real note though, I do love his story, as we all remember the tragic story of Tyler Hilinski, the Washington State quarterback, so I do find myself rooting for Ryan, and I hope he proves us all wrong. Man, it feels like forever since Illinois had a truly good quarterback. Guys like Juice Williams and Nathan Scheelhaase were stars, and they helped Illinois football become relevant again. Since then, guys such as Wes Lunt and Brandon Peters have been alright, but for the most part, the quarterback position has been a major point of struggle for the Illini, which has kept them in the cellar of the Big Ten. Things were no different in 2020. In week 1, they beat Nebraska, but Brandon Peters went down with an injury, and Art Sikowski had to take over for a little while. Eventually, Peters did return to the lineup, but quarterback play was not great for Illinois last year. To be fair, Brett Bielema's system does not favor the quarterback, so the case can be made that the Illini are doomed to have the worst quarterback in the conference. But who is the guy? Well, Peters is now in the NFL, Sikowski has taken a back seat, and in comes former Syracuse quarterback Tommy DeVito. You guys remember when Syracuse was good? I do. Eric Dungey was one of the best quarterbacks in all of college football and led the Orange to a breakout 2018 season. After he was done, Syracuse had their next great quarterback in line, and his name was Tommy DeVito. He was a 4-star recruit, and huge expectations were placed on his shoulders, except he didn't ever pan out. His best season came in 2019 when he threw for 2,300 yards with 19 touchdowns, but it didn't lead to a lot of wins. He would regress tremendously in 2020 before he was ultimately benched in 2021 in favor of Mississippi State transfer Garrett Schrader. Schrader has now taken over as the quarterback, so DeVito decided he was going to get the heck out of there. He transferred over to Illinois, where he has recently been named the starter. Just like Hilinski, DeVito is a guy who had a lot of potential coming out of high school, but he has yet to put it together. And with the style of offense that Illinois runs, I can't see a world in which Devoto has that great of a year. There's a real case that he's the worst starting quarterback in the Big Ten. Now we're going to leave the state of Illinois and head over to New Jersey, where we're going to talk about Rutgers. It seems like every year there was a new starting quarterback in Piscataway, until the last 2 years when they finally had a little bit of stability with Noah Vedral. I'll be honest, I am not the biggest Noah Vedral fan in the world. Last year he only threw for 1,800 yards with 7 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. He's now in what seems like his 7th year in college football, and in his last 2 years he really hasn't proven that he's that great of a quarterback, so there's no reason for him to continue starting. Except that might be the case. Right now there's a 3-man quarterback battle, but I think it's just 2. It's going to come down to Vedral and Gavin Wimsatt. I'm going to place my money on Wimsatt being the starter by the end of the year, so that's who we're going to go with for being the starting guy. Coming out of Owensboro, Kentucky, he was a top 10 quarterback in the class of 2022 before he decided to reclassify to 2021. He was the biggest quarterback commit in Rutgers history, and expectations are sky high for him. Last year he appeared in 4 total games and failed to throw a touchdown compared to 2 interceptions. Wimsatt is extremely young though. He should have been a high school senior, and he barely knew the system. As we look ahead to 2022, Wimsatt has the physical tools, the potential, and the confidence to be a great quarterback, but right now, you can't really justify hyping him up that much. He has very little stats to his name, he's not guaranteed the starting job, and he's very young. While I think Wimsatt has more potential than any of these 4 guys we talk about today, as of right now, you could argue he's the least experienced and the worst quarterback in the Big Ten, but that could change. Finally, we head over to Bloomington, Indiana, where we're going to talk about the Hoosiers quarterback room. For how bad they have been historically, they've actually had some decent quarterbacks over the last few years. It started with Nate Sudfeld, who was a star there and has started some NFL games. You then had Richard Lago, who was alright, Peyton Ramsey, who was a gamer, and then most recently Michael Penix Jr. Penix probably had the highest ceiling of those 4 guys, but he could not stay healthy. He did lead them to a breakout 2020 season, but he has since transferred to Washington, where he has now been named the starting quarterback there. So who's left? Well, first you have Jack Tuttle. This guy was a big-time recruit coming out of high school, and when he committed to Utah, he told the staff they had to stop recruiting Zach Wilson. Yeah, the Utes ended up picking Tuttle over Wilson, and that burnt them. After just 1 year, Tuttle transferred over to Indiana, where he prepared and waited for his turn. That would come in 2020 when Penix got hurt, and he would lead them to a win over Wisconsin. It would happen again last year, as when Penix got hurt again, he would take over. Except, he was awful. Tuttle couldn't get anything done, and that is why there is a quarterback battle going on in Bloomington. So who did they bring in? Well, they got Connor Bazelak from Missouri, who was actually the SEC Freshman of the Year in 2020. He was pretty solid there at Mizzou, but then last year Bazelak was terrible, but to be fair, he was battling an injury. The third man out is a guy named Dexter Williams, who apparently has all the athletic tools, but has not yet been able to fine-tune his game and limit turnovers enough, so he was sort of eliminated from the quarterback battle. It's going to come down to Bazelak and Tuttle, and from what I've heard, it is neck and neck. I have also heard there has been a starter name, but that has not been released publicly. Tuttle hasn't done a whole lot in his 2 years at Indiana, so you could argue he'd be the worst returning quarterback in the Big Ten. If it's Bazelak, then they probably fare a little bit better, but he is hurt, he had a bad stat line last year, and he is sort of a statue in the backfield. Either way, I think Indiana will be a little bit better than last year, and out of these 4, they probably have the best quarterback, but you could argue that either of those 2 are the worst in the conference. But what do you guys think? Who is the worst starting quarterback in the Big Ten? Is it Ryan Helinski at Northwestern, Gavin Wimsatt at Rutgers, Tommy DeVito at Illinois, or is it Jack Tuttle or Bazelak at Indiana? Be sure to let me know down below. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. It was something completely new, and if you want me to do this for every conference or more positions, I'd love to, but you gotta leave a comment so I can know. Before you go, give me your thoughts on tomorrow's Northwestern-Nebraska game, let me know who your favorite team in the Big Ten is, and let me know what topic I can do next. Also, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and check out all my other videos on the end screen. Hope to see you guys again soon, but until next time, peace.